Oops. Ooh. Hello. Hello, hello. I'm just waiting for my special guest to come on. We're going to give her a few minutes. Hi, Emma Tariq. How are you doing today? How are you feeling today? Okay, welcome, welcome. I'm going to invite on. Do 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 do. Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm well. I am well. It's wonderful to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
I'm really happy to have you. So for those that are just tuning in, this is a surprise live. My guest today is Dr. Amy Johnson, who is the author of Being Human and also the Little Book of Big Change. She's also the founder of the Little School of Big Change, which is the course that I've been telling you guys about that is starting tomorrow, which is March. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
I know.
Which is starting tomorrow. And I have been studying this new method of habit change. You guys know that I'm really big on self-development. I have struggled with binge eating, food addiction in the past, a lot of other things like anxiety and, depressive episodes in the past. And I study a lot on habits. So when I came across Amy's work, I was really fascinated about her approach. And I'll have her explain a little bit about her philosophy and how change happens. It's very radically different from all those other tools that I have personally learned, and probably you have personally learned going through books and podcasts and how you can change your habit. You just need to do XYZ. You need to address this. Maybe we need to work through childhood trauma. All of those work, but there's also a different side to it that is a lot more easeful, a lot more flowing, and dare I call it, a lot more natural. And I'll have Amy talk a little bit about that. So Amy, I would love for you to chat a little bit about yourself, like who you are and what you study and why you got into this work.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for having me. I'm happy to be the surprise on this Sunday. Yeah, so I'm trained as a psychologist. I work as a coach, as you said, from a very non-traditional kind of paradigm. That honestly, I work from this place, from this understanding, because I've tried all the older ways and nothing even comes close to what I've seen in terms of this kind of direction. And first, that was for myself. So I was struggling with binge eating and bulimia for about 8 years, lots of anxiety and other things long before that. And again, like you mentioned, like many people listening probably, I did every self-help thing. I went to every workshop. I did every kind of therapy. I tried medication. I did it all, and nothing really kind of felt like it was getting to the core of it. It was like you mentioned, like I could manage things a little bit on the surface. It took work, it took some effort. I had to stay very diligent, but I could manage things to some extent. But I didn't have an understanding. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel free. I felt like I was always looking over my shoulder for the next urge or the next panic attack or the next thing that I probably couldn't handle or that I had to do something to manage. Um, so none of it was long lasting. And
Hmm.
when I came across what I share now, my binge eating bulimia turned around very, very quickly. My anxiety, everything just started to look incredibly different. And then since then, that was, gosh, probably 11 years ago or so. So,
Wow.
yeah, so since then, I've been completely free of those things, nothing to manage at all, completely free. And in the last 11 years, I've shared this with tens of thousands of people, and I've seen it again just makes such a difference in, like you said, a more easy, natural way compared to anything else.
Mm, that's amazing. My immediate question to you is, the 11 years ago, when you discovered what you discovered, did the binging stop just like completely, or was it a slow taper off?
Somewhere in between. I mean, I had some major insights where I knew I could see, wow, this is just a physical habit. Like it's just my mind going in a habitual direction and me listening to it. So I knew that I wasn't a binge eater really quickly. I knew that I wasn't weak. I wasn't sick. There was nothing wrong with me. I knew that just like anyone out there, I could be free of this. And then
Mm,
and then there was a little bit of a process of getting used to that. Like I saw it and I knew it and I knew that I would be free of this relatively soon. But sometimes I got caught up in my thoughts and feelings along the way. So it was somewhere in between. But it was, and I don't even remember the amount of time now, but it was pretty relatively.
mm. Okay. Well, it's wonderful that you're able to stop the habit, right? I feel like I'm still stuck in this limbo where I'm starting to see this new approach, but embodying it is something else, and I'm open to it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your radically different approach to habit change?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, first, what you said is so big. So there is like a process often where we see a bit about this, and then it takes, we just hang around it, we immerse in it, and we start to embody it more and more. So basically, to kind of put it in a nutshell, it's based around the fact that we are habit free by nature. None of us were born binge eating. None of us were 1 year olds, 2 year olds binge eating. None of us. Um, we know how to be free. We know how to eat, and we're not just talking about binge eating. I mean, none of us were born anxious or born depressed or any of that. We all are. Every human on earth is designed with every single thing that we need. We are lived by something so much bigger. This intelligence that's built into our design that lives us and shows us things and gives us good ideas and helps us calm down when we're upset and all of it. So all of that is natural, innate to every human, and it can't possibly go anywhere. But what happens now when we struggle in life, when we get caught up and we don't feel like we know how to eat or like we don't feel healthy, what's happening is that we're thinking and
Mm,
we're getting caught up in our thoughts as if they are the truth. So everyone thinks all the time, obviously, from the minute we're born to the minute we die, there's mental activity happening, there's thought happening, and that thought's creating our moment to moment experience, all our feelings, everything we see. It's just that we as humans, like we tend to go into our heads like we're gonna figure it out and we're gonna control.
mhm.
I don't like this feeling, so I'm gonna do something to make this one go away. And it almost turns like we're kind of playing God here. Like we're gonna make our life the way we want it. And that's so natural. I tried to do that for decades, but it never works. It's
I think it's really natural, especially in a 3D world where we're always told cause versus effect, right? You do this, this is going to happen. That's the way that we were raised, and that's the way the society has gone through.
for sure. Totally. So there's a whole all of our conditioning, everything we're taught is like, oh, that kid teased you, therefore you feel sad, and all of this kind of, or okay, now go eat a cookie and you'll feel better. And so
Mhm.
you're right, it gets us in this cause and effect, but actually, it's not that. I mean, it's not accurate. It sure looks accurate. It sure looks like, wow, yeah, that kid teased me, and now I'm sad. I eat the cookie, I feel better. It's but we're looking deeper than that. What's really going on is people are teased all, just to use that example, people are teased all day, every day, and in any moment we're going to have whatever reaction shows up in our head. The teasing
Mhm.
can, and same with the cookie. There are people eating cookies all over the world right now. Some of them are happy, some of them are miserable, some of them are eating 50 so that they can try to not feel something. Some are eating one and they don't even like cookies. Like, cookies don't do anything. Teasing in and of itself doesn't do anything. What we feel is this evolving, constantly changing experience moving through us. So when we start to shift that and look at where this is really coming from within us, it starts to free us up so much, because now we're not looking out at the world trying to make all that different. You know, we're looking in the right direction finally.
So let's say, I'm sure a lot of us are wondering, okay, Amy, I have this really bad habit of binging, of gambling, or, you know, crying all the time. What do I do? Like, how do I stop it? Give me something to do. Tell us the secret, Amy. I'm ready.
So where we go with that is we get really curious about how our experience works. Now, I could tell you some behavioral steps, but you can go to Google and find those. You don't need a professional. You don't, everybody, there's a million behavioral to-dos out there. If they worked, no one would have any problems. So let's just say that up front. The fact that our mind just wants the to-do, again, it's just a reflection of the mind that wants to control it for us. Our mind is the one saying, okay, but what are the steps and what do I do? Because our mind is always trying to control life on our behalf, and it doesn't work that way. So this is the paradigm shift, right? This is kind of where we turn around, we look in another direction. So what I do with people in my school and books and everything is start to say, hey, what if you have everything you need and you're feeling thought moving through you and feeling moving through you, and we start to get curious about what's there beyond our experience. So just because a thought about gambling shows up and it feels really compelling and you really want to do it, doesn't mean you want to. It doesn't mean you do it. It doesn't mean that's good for you. It's like it's a computer. We have computers. We literally have really sophisticated machines in our heads called brains that just say habitual stuff. So it's hard to nutshell it, but hopefully you can get a feel for this. That as we get curious about, oh, that's just a machine telling me to gamble because I gamble every day and I get all these dopamine hits and all this stuff, but I don't even like that. What if I don't even want it? Same with food, same with anything. We start to kind of just see our experience like from a distance a little bit, or like it just feels a little less compelling. And again, it's an exploration we go on, but as that happens, you can kind of sense the freedom that would happen. So if your mind is telling you, go eat this or don't eat that, don't eat it all today, like, of course those demands feel so big and real, and we think those are our preferences, or that we should do that because it's in our own head. Of course we do. But the more we see it's a habitual computer spitting out demands, and that we actually have wisdom and health beyond that's there to live us, oh my gosh, I mean, so much space kind of opens up, and we just make better choices rather than being run around by our habits.
I'm just going to pause for a second. Is there a chance that your hand might be covering your microphone? Sometimes it's
Did I get
okay. There. Oh, that was so much better.
I just said the best part.
Okay. Did you want to repeat the best part?
Well, was it really bad, or could you hear me okay?
It was a little bit hard to hear, but in short, you can truncate what you said.
Okay, I don't even remember what I said, but really what we're looking at is like, yes, having that space between, like, kind of sensing how much freedom we could have when our habituated mind is telling us to do our habit, right? But we see that, we hear it, we don't need to make it go away, but we also aren't afraid of it. We see it for what it is, It's like, my mind would always tell me, every time I'd have the house to myself, I'd have an empty house, my mind would start planning my next binge. As soon as I could see, oh, yep, there goes the machine again, it stopped looking so personal. It wasn't like, oh, I want this binge right now, or it's going to feel great, or, none of that made sense quite in the same way anymore. It just looked like a machine. Like, yes, kind of like you said, cause and effect. Like, house is empty, Amy binges. Well, what if I don't have to? What if it doesn't have to be that way, So there's so much freedom that shows up in even our experience being exactly what it is.
So it sounds like we as human beings naturally like to attach a thought to a meaning, and we create meaning out of the thought when it's not necessarily true, and it's really just the thought. What if we don't attach anything to it? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That's a big part of it. Yes, exactly. Is seeing that, yes, our mind's always just filling in blanks and giving us suggestions and demands and all of that. But you're right. The more we see that we don't have to have all that meaning on it, and we kind of just get curious from a bit of a distance, it starts to open up so much.
Okay. That sounds a lot like mindfulness. Much like how also in Brain Over Binge, which I think you read, it's about noticing the thought and then detaching yourself from the thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the key difference, it's similar. It's similar to both of those, but the key difference as I see it is that we're not starting with a strategy. I'm never telling people a thing to do. I know you have enough to do. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to help you see how you work. And when we see how we work, like how our experience is naturally moving through, we naturally become more mindful. We naturally don't act on everything when we see it for what it is, you know? So it's not like behavior first, practice, strategy first. It's understanding first, and then our behavior changes.
Naturally. So I like the analogy you give of that monster under the bed, because I think that describes your approach perfectly. Like a lot of the self-help books will say, okay, you do A, you do B, you do C, we work on the thoughts, we reframe the thoughts, and for some people that might work. Your approach is really different, and it's a lot more like, I don't really have to do anything, I just have to see it. And when you I like that saying, when you see it, you cannot unsee it. And I love that. I love that, because it's like, what do you have to do? You don't have to do anything. You just have to see it. You embody it. So tell us your monster analogy.
Yeah. So it's like I have little kids, 9 and 11. They're not really afraid of monsters anymore, but they were. And my son was always afraid of everything, and he still has to sleep with the closet door open and, you know, like check the bed before we go in there and everything. But it would be like when he would see a shadow on his wall, but in his mind, it wasn't a shadow, it was a monster. It looked just like a monster. It had the horns and the whole bit. And he'd say, Mommy, there's a monster in my room. And from his understanding, it totally looked like a monster in his room. He could point it out to me, you know, there's the head and there's the horns and the nose.
So the monster would be the habit.
Yeah. So, so in the shadow, like in the monster, like it really looked like a monster. And I couldn't go in and say, you know, I could, but it wasn't going to be helpful for me to go in and say, oh, there's no such thing as monsters, go to bed. You know, like in his mind, he was looking at a monster. So what helped is when I could actually show him, when he could insightfully see, and we would flip the light on and he would see, oh, look at all of these things are stacked up. There's where the horn is coming from. It's actually just your baseball bat. Here's the nose. It's whatever else you didn't put away in your room, you know, and when he could see that it was light and dark, like, but really like, you know, see it, like really know it. There was no convincing. Then it was totally different. Then we could even turn the light off. The shadow would be there, but he knew. He's like, oh, there's my baseball bat casting a shadow, rather than there's a monster. So when we see anything in a deep way, another one people use all the time is there's this old Zen story of someone walking in the desert and they come upon a rattlesnake and they're scared to death and they're in panic and they turn around to run. But before they run, they take one last look and they see that the rattlesnake was really just a rope. Once you see it as a rope, you don't run. Like, it's a rope. It can't kill you. You know this. So that's a perfect kind of metaphor to kind of talk about how when we see ourselves and our experience differently, there's not we just naturally act differently. So yes, if our habit, our thoughts, our feelings, our experience looks like a monster, which it does when we don't really understand it, it totally did to me for most of my life, we're going to do all kinds of stuff. We're going to try to outrun it. We're going to medicate it away. We're going to meditate it away. We're going to do whatever we can to run away. But when we see that it's just this energy moving through us, it is not, and again, this is an exploration. So I know it's hard to we don't just see it in one conversation like this, but as we explore it and we see it's energy moving through us, it's our mind telling stories. We're okay. We don't have to listen to any of it. we're lived by something bigger, we're safe. As we come to really embody those things, like you said, which is the process you're on, it just doesn't make sense to do what our mind's telling us. And we just won't. It won't make sense anymore.
I almost feel like this is the analogy of the fish in the water. So the fish says to the other fish, how's the water? And the fish is like, what water? But when you're viewing from the outside of the fish bowl, you know that they're in water, but the fish doesn't know.
Right.
It's almost like that. Like once you see that, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. Yeah. That quote actually opens my book that's coming out in October. It's the opening quote. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah,
so excited. I'm really excited for your next book. And guys, if you haven't read her previous book, The Little Book of Big Change, phenomenal. One of the best reads I've ever had in 2020. Definitely. I mean, it's not that big.
No, it's little.
Really feasible. The chapters are really feasible. And I mean, there isn't like, it's not this gigantic book of what to do this, do that. It's really just, it's a really simple concept. I'm actually surprised that you were able to draw it out to a book, Amy. I think that's really amazing. And to branch off of the book, I want to talk about your Little School of Big Change, which is starting tomorrow, you guys. It's starting tomorrow.
It's insane. So fun. It's so fun. I can't wait to have you.
I can't wait to be in it. So this is going to be a 6-week-long program. It starts in March, ends in April. It runs twice a year, from what I've heard, right? Once in March and then the other in October, was it?
Yeah, it'll be September this year, but yeah.
September. Okay, so twice a year. And it basically, it gives you a chance to embody everything that we just talked about in this interview. And you get to see, well, I'm going to have Amy talk more about this, but I'm really excited because you get that support from the community and from her coaches. So Amy, tell us a little more about what the Little School of Big Change is and what we can expect.
Yeah, so I love how you just said that, because it is an opportunity to spend 6 weeks really exploring this and embodying it, because what I said was not complicated, but it doesn't do anything for you to just hear it said, that. We all know that. We can hear all kinds of stuff, but it's an opportunity to really go deep with it. So, and it's fun. So it's every week you get about an hour of really short video lessons. And then every week we have 2 90-minute group calls where there are people from 48 countries that have been through the school so far. So it's a huge, amazing, like global community of people coming together, looking in this direction, being curious. They have a variety of habits, a lot of food-related habits, but not all. Anxiety, depression, whatever. But we're all walking through this exploration of, who am I really beyond my experience, and how does my experience work? Like my experience, yes, it feels like the monster. It feels like the rattlesnake, right? But what would have to happen? What would I have to see about it for it to start to look like just a shadow or just a rope, so that I'm not afraid of anything I feel? Because when we are not afraid of anything we feel, there's no such thing as a habit. Why would there be? Like we don't have anything to cope with. So anyway, the school, you get a combination of video lessons, group calls, where I go around and I talk with everyone who has their hand up. So there's a lot of personal support, a lot of personal coaching. You get to watch other people being coached, which is phenomenal for us, because we watch from a different place, and we tend to see so much when we're watching someone else be supported. And then we have a private forum, not on Facebook, our own little thing, where myself and 3 of my best coaches are in there around the clock supporting people. So it is a group course. You won't be the only one in there, but there's a ton of personal support. Everybody's questions get answered. Everyone who wants a little coaching gets it. And like you said, you get to learn from the community as other people are waking up and being like, wow, like I felt this panic move through me and I just let it move through. Like we see so much in watching other people's insights.
Mm-hmm. So what are the chances of me being coached or anybody being coached in that course?
Yeah, well, they're pretty good. They're 100%. It'll happen. Yeah. I mean, I do because I just love it too. I mean, this is like this is my favorite thing to do is be with the people in the school. And so when people post questions, like we do as much as we can on our calls. Our calls often go over into almost 2 hours at times. You don't have to stay on the whole time. Everything's recorded, by the way. So all of the video lessons, the calls, everything's recorded, and everyone gets to keep that forever. So you can kind of do it at your own pace. But yeah, if we run out of time on a call, I get to you the next call. I make a video responding to your question. So it's yeah, lots of personal support.
And I love that. I love how there's a supportive community. And I feel like within the forum, people are able to help out each other. Yes?
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's a lot of like people saying like, I hear you and me too. And I've been through that. So what's great about it is it's not a lot of people giving advice, because then I don't even give advice. Like, this isn't about advice. Again, you can go to Google for free advice on anything you want. But so this is about the coaches really pointing to what's true about how we work. And then this huge community, like you said, supporting everybody and saying, you got this, and here's what I see, and just, you know, really, really helpful.
I want to know if you have any success stories. If you would like to share any success stories around people who've been through the Little School of Big Change and how it's changed their lives.
Yeah, gosh, I don't even know where to start. I mean, there's a ton. There's a ton.
I'm going to be your next success story, by the
I
way.
know you are. I can't wait. I know. Yeah, I actually did, maybe you can share the link to this. I did a webinar recently with people sharing their success stories. I mean, there's so many, but one that comes to mind is a woman who had been binge eating for 40 some years, her, you know, almost her whole life, from the time she was like 9 or 10. She, as many of us, me too, can remember being a little kid, like 9 or 10, and, you know, taking the food in the closet as just a way to comfort. And then it just kind of spins out of control from there. So she had tried everything, done everything, was so convinced that she was just beyond help. And she was actually, her name's Lexi. She was on my podcast about a month ago, just starting to find the book and then the school and just immerse in this, kind of similar to what I know you felt. She just little bit just started to wake up, like, wow, maybe I'm not really as sick as I thought I was. What if this is just experience, like habitual thought moving through me that doesn't have to have such a hold on me? And being super open, she just kind of let it be easier than what she was making it. That's a huge thing that happens as people get around this, is we're so used to trying to fight our problems. Like, I'm going to fight this habit, I'm going to beat this habit. And that's what Lexi was doing. That's what many people do. But when we let go of the fight a little bit, our health actually gets to come to the surface. So she kind of quit trying to battle her binge eating habit, and she just got curious with herself and started to feel safer in her experience. And I mean, things have just changed remarkably for her.
That's 40 something years. That's like, and then within a 6-week course, you're able to start opening your eyes.
Yes. Yes.
That's incredible.
And that's it. You start to see life in a different way. And then the change just kind of starts happening on its own in a way, because you're finally seeing things more clearly.
Yeah. So have you been able to apply this beyond just your addiction to, you know, food? How has it changed your life in other areas beyond just this habit?
Yeah, it's so hard to say. I mean, in so many ways that are really, really difficult for me to even kind of articulate, because I very vaguely remember being very caught up and like, and I don't, you know, like, so for me, I came across this around the time when my kids were being born and they were really tiny. There's absolutely no question that my parenting, like just my patience and my ability to kind of be with, like we're saying, being with our feelings and our experience, but being with a toddler who's throwing a temper tantrum on the floor of Target, like, you know, that is not something I would have been good at before at all. So there's just so much kind of space and patience. It's changed my relationship a ton. I used to have so much thinking about how my husband had to be. It really looked like he
how he was determined how I got to feel. Like if he was in a good
Ooh,
mood, we'd
okay.
be good. If he was in a bad mood, we'd be bad. If we got in a fight on a Friday, I remember thinking this all the time. If we got in a fight on a Friday, I would think, oh, well, the weekend's ruined, which is crazy to me now because I'm like, why would a whole weekend be ruined over a fight? But what happens for one little fight on Friday? But I could see my mind was just so everything turned solid and it was trying to figure everything out. And, you know, he did this, so I feel bad and we're not good together, and just so much seriousness. But now there's so much more lightness around that. He
Mm.
does what he does and it doesn't make me feel anyway, you know, and I mean, we're still human. Like we still, you know, get on each other's nerves and like every human, but it just doesn't have that seriousness, anything in life, you know, quite as much as it used to.
It sounds like you're able to flow into life a lot more easily without having the fear of, okay, if X happens, then I'm going to feel X. Because your circumstances don't dictate your feelings, and then it doesn't dictate your actions.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. So there's so much freedom. It's like people just get to
I
be who
love
they
that.
are. Life gets to be how life needs to be because we're not doing a very good job controlling it anyway. And then
No, and
we
we
just get to
can't.
feel
And
what
we
we
can't.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you were able to take yourself out of the victim mentality of the circumstances, right? I think a lot of us naturally operate on the circumstances dictate our mood. The circumstances dictate our life. But with your approach, it's like the circumstances don't dictate anything. They don't have to dictate anything.
Not at all. They can't. They really don't. We think they do, but it's a misunderstanding. They can't. And that's huge when it comes to habits. So I remember in my binge eating days, I mean, everything looked like a trigger. Certain people looked like a trigger. Certain days of the week were a trigger. Certain
Oh
moods.
my God, all that fear. And it's like trying to figure out, okay, that's a trigger. Okay, so I can't make sure I can't buy that on this social outing. I have to make sure I know this and this. And it sounds like it's a lot of figuring out.
And your life gets tiny. Your life
Yes.
gets super small because how else are you going to try to control all that? So it's such a blessing to not have a small life. And that's probably the biggest thing I hear from people as they wake up to this understanding is their life got bigger. Like they felt okay. They weren't afraid anymore. So they can go out and do anything and try things and fail and all of that because what's going to happen? A feeling? Like and you're not afraid of feelings in the same way. So
Yeah.
it's so freeing.
I almost feel like you should have a slogan like the little school of, oh no, but I mean, kind of have it. I graduated from the little school and my life got bigger. But
Yeah.
I guess that's the little school of big change, right? I guess that already encompasses that. I love that. I love that so much. So I want to let you right here know that Amy has so generously offered a discount code for anybody that is on the checkout page. They can enter the code TheFitty, that's TheFitty, to get a discount off of what's the investment right now?
$450 US.
$450 right now. Yeah. So with the discount code, you get $50 off.
Yeah.
With the code TheFitty. And it's starting tomorrow. You guys, this can change your life. Okay? How much would you invest in yourself to change your life? How long have you been at it? How long have you been at it with your, ruminating, with your habit, with feeling guilty over your habit, guilty, shame, and regret, feeling fearful, having to control everything, getting really analytical about everything? If you could allow yourself the opportunity to change just by investing in a course that starts to open your eyes up to a new way of living, a new way of thinking, it pays back in dividends. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be a student in this. So when you enroll, you're going to be enrolling with me. We're going to be in it together. You get to see me trip up and get in my own head and get stuck in my own ways as well. So let's be in it together. Amy, tell us all of your social handles beyond this Instagram, which you guys definitely give her a follow, okay? Buy her book, the little book of big change, and enroll in her course, The Little School of Big Change, and enter that discount code. But where else can we find your work?
So besides Instagram, on Facebook, I'm just Dr. Amy Johnson, Facebook/Dr. Amy Johnson. And then my website is just dramyjohnson.com, which is just dramyjohnson.com. And there's a ton there. So there you'll find my podcast, all kinds of free stuff, all kinds of information about the school. So it's a great place to check things out.
Awesome. Amazing. And Amy, before we log off, what is one thing you would like to what is the last message that you would like to leave everybody here on this live? What would you like them to know?
Yeah, I think, you know, I just remember when I was really struggling, and I hear this from so many people, that feeling of having tried everything. I think a lot of people have tried a lot of stuff, and just feeling like, why would I do one more course? Why would I go through 6 weeks of one more thing? You know, nothing else has worked. And I just want people to kind of know that I was there too. Many people are. And that this understanding is different. It's not mine. I didn't invent it. It's spiritual wisdom and psychological knowledge that's been passed through the ages. But I've studied pretty much everything there is to study, and nothing even comes close to the effectiveness of this. So please know, if you're saying, oh, I've already tried all the courses, I'm not going to try anything else, or, you know, that you probably haven't tried looking in this direction, because it flips everything on its head. And again, I can't even take credit for it. It's the truth of life. And so I'm just so grateful to get to share it.
That's amazing. And thank you for sharing your work. I think more people, this should be like a university course, more people need to know about this approach. So I'm really thankful that the universe was able to send this message to you so that you're able to project it out to the rest of the world to free us of, and you know what, we're already free. I love that.
See that we're free. Yes.
You gave me that quote, and I've stuck by it. I've stuck by it a lot. So thank you so much for your time today, Amy. I'm so excited for tomorrow. I'm so excited for all these lives. I'm so excited to be your next success story, and I'm so excited for everybody here to get your book, to enroll in the course with you, because they deserve it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for everything that you do to share this. I appreciate it so much. I know you've seen the power and the potential in this already. So I'm so grateful that you're on this journey too. And thank you for sharing.
Amazing. All right. Well, namaste.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.